But first, embarrassed and enraged. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, Donald Trump's plan to federalize law enforcement in D.C. has been a resounding success.
You have people who can walk freely at night without having to worry about being robbed or mugged. They're wearing their watches again. They're wearing jewelry again. They're carrying purses again. People had changed their whole lives in this city for fear of being murdered, mugged, and carjacked. It is a literal statement that President Trump has freed 700,000 people in this city who were living under the rule of criminals and thugs.
The progress is indisputable. So you heard that. There's 0 homicides over the past 12 days. Carjackers are basically out of work. Those are down 85%. Oh, my gosh. Robberies, they've dropped 42%. So that's good news, and normal residents are thrilled.
Well, I'm glad they're cracking down on crime. That's all I can say.
I feel a lot safer, so I'm actually really happy.
I feel like the nation's finally becoming safe again with this, so it's nice that he has our backs and he's protecting us.
Occasionally we would have people come in and guys trying to come in and grab things off the shelf and run. That I'm not afraid of anymore.
The positive effect of it is decreasing crime. I do feel safer when they're around.
But a greater sense of citywide safety and ramped up arrests, that's not what the radicals want. The activist towels, remember, that stands for typical old white liberals, and all the paid agitators, they keep screeching when someone's detained. The best thing on YouTube. They choose to side with illegal aliens and other criminals over their fellow citizens.
You're targeting all the unhoused in the city?
This will be a genocide. They're going to take homeless people and they're going to take brown people and they're going to put them in camps. These people right now are participating in genocide. This is not hyperbole. I'm not trying to scare people. Why are they responding like this? This is fascism. This will end in genocide. Millions of people will die if we do not stop this.
What is going on now is the worst thing that I could imagine. This is war.
You just watch this, you're like, what planet are these people living on? That's genocide. Saving lives is genocide. That's crazy. All right, today in the Oval Office, Trump spoke about the federal effort to restore cities and where his next move might be.
The governor of Illinois should be. Chicago's a disaster. And the governor of Illinois should say, President, would you do us the honor of cleaning up our city?
Donald Trump looked at the assembled cameras and asked for me personally to say, Mr. President, can you do us the honor of protecting our city? Instead, I say, Mr. President, do not come to Chicago. You are neither wanted here nor needed here.
Then Pritzker did his big call out to the press, imploring the media to lose their objectivity, as if they have objectivity, for the sake of democracy.
To the members of the press who are assembled here today and listening across the country, I am asking for your courage to tell it like it is. This is not a time to pretend here that there are two sides to this story. Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points. If this were happening in any other country, we would have no trouble calling it what it is, a dangerous power grab.
One of the worst mayors in America joined the fun, Brandon Johnson, and he gave his own kind of stump speech today, citing crime falling, he claims, in certain categories. Then the desperate dirigible issued a tough guy warning, not to criminals, but to Trump and his top advisors.
To any federal official who would come to Chicago and try to incite my people into violence as a pretext for something darker and more dangerous, we are watching. And we are taking names. As Dr. King once said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Humbly, I would add, it doesn't bend on its own. History tells us we often have to apply force needed to make sure that the arc gets where it needs to go.
We have to apply force. Now, what does Pritzker mean there, pray tell? In one breath, he talked about peaceful and lawful resistance, and then that language about force. Well, let me decode this for you. There are two things going on. Pritzker does not want the world to see and the city to feel what life can truly be like when it's safe and gangs are back on their heels, when drug runners are forced to hide. He knows Trump is showing voters who are traditionally Democrats that they don't need to live this way. Second, what you saw today is the first movement in the 2028 Democrat primary. Not having Gavin Newsom has been dominating the anti-Trump headlines for weeks. He's been carving out his place as the early frontrunner. So others have to show that they can stand up to Trump too, which is why Pritzker puffed out his already puffy chest today. But how does that explain what's happened to his state under Democrat rule? Including, when you look at that crowd there today, Dick Durbin, who stood behind Pritzker, he looked like a stuffed cadaver doing his best Joe Biden impersonation. That was weird, not inspiring at all. Just like the entire state itself, not inspiring because it's bleeding residents. And as a result, it will lose an estimated 2 congressional seats by 2032. Well, it turns out that Americans actually don't like living in cities and in states with high taxes, high crime, a rotten education system, and a fat bureaucracy, a lot of whom were standing behind Pritzker today. Democrats, though, they apparently believe that they're entitled to win office and stay in power whether or not their policies are proven to hurt innocent, hardworking Americans, including disproportionately hurting minorities. And that's what's happening in Chicago. And look at what Zohran Mamdani is planning for NYC. He and his Socialist Party comrades want to end enforcement of misdemeanors and legalize prostitution, just for good measure. So this is all of a piece. Trump wants more law enforcement, Democrats want less. How stupid are they? But what's important to remember here, just like the Biden people didn't care about what an open border would mean, it would mean open season on Americans, their safety, their lives. The liberals of 2025, they don't care at all. Not one smidge. Your safety, your well-being, your kids' education, your standard of living, none of that matters. None of it compares to their desire to remake America. But they have a few big stumbling blocks in their way, don't they? Donald Trump and the common sense of the American voters. Now, this is why these off-year gubernatorial elections, which we're going to focus a lot on here on The Angle, are so important. Gotta elect Winsome Sears to become governor of Virginia, defeat that fake moderate and pro-trans Abigail Spanberger. And in New Jersey, look at this. Politico sees an upset for the Republicans possible, warning Democrats that they're losing blacks and Hispanics in the state. And look, out in the midterms, remember what Vance said on The Angle last week? The GOP must not be complacent. Turnout needs to be record-breaking because the radicals need to be sent packing for good, which means they have to lose and lose big again and again. And that's The Angle.
Trump's turning D.C. into Disney World. That's not me saying it. That's the media. 47's molding D.C. into his own personal Epcot, a political theme park where troops keep the peace and the White House glitters like Mar-a-Lago. I took my kids to Epcot. It was clean, friendly, and fun. Why would anyone be against that? With a little imagination and some pixie dust, Trump turned the Capitol into the most magical place on earth.
We actually arrested a total of well over 1,000 people. We took hundreds of guns away from young kids that were throwing them around like it was candy. As I said, we've had 0 murders in the last week. And some of these people were from foreign countries. They said, that doesn't sound so good. And I said, well, it doesn't sound good, but Washington was the most dangerous place in this country. And now, you know what? It's probably the safest place in our country.
The National Guard's carrying 9mm and M4s. And we've gone 12 days without a murder in D.C. It's the longest streak since before the pandemic. Trump's done so much, the U.S. Marshals gave him a badge.
We thought it was only appropriate to present you with an honorary United States Marshal Service badge. And this badge comes with this little item right here, the handcuff key, Mr. President, because you continue through your policies and your efforts with your staff to unhandcuff law enforcement officers all over this nation.
America's heartthrob, Stephen Miller, says Trump's making America date again. Last week was Restaurant Week and Liberation Week.
For the first time in their lives, they can use the parks, they can walk on the streets. You have people who can walk freely at night without having to worry about being robbed or mugged. They're wearing their watches again. They're wearing jewelry again. They're carrying purses again. It is a literal statement that President Trump has freed 700,000 people in this city who were living under the rule of criminals and thugs.
This isn't just a win for your wife who wants to wear jewelry. You know the jewelry you bought her. Guys can show off the bling too.
I don't even got to look over my shoulder no more. I'm walking around with this. Listen, jump out on me if you want. I'm gonna scream. They're gonna be here in 33 seconds. I got some help, some backup. For real, you jump out. I'm gonna blow your ass. Look, they right here. Look, they outside. Oh, God Almighty.
No murders, and guys can wear flashy watches and take girls to dinner. Who's against that?
Why has Bowser allowed D.C. to be a playground for white gentrifiers and developers at the expense of the native population?
So misguided. Trump's going to protect whites and blacks, whether they like it or not. Big Balls won't have to take one for the team anymore. He was jumped saving a girl from getting carjacked, but he's back from the hospital throwing up 225 on the bench. They're calling him swole balls. Meanwhile, Democrats can't even get it up without help.
No, you cannot be the mayor. Let's go.
1, 2, 3.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Hey, up, hey, let's go. Hey, baby.
Kami Mandami couldn't do one rep with 45s on the side without someone lifting it for him. If he can't manage 135 pounds, how's he going to manage the weight of New York? It's not a light job. And talk about being unprepared. You go into Men's Day in Brooklyn with the cameras hot, and it looks like you've never been to the gym. This guy's not ready to run New York. He's just winging it. Zoolander will be walking around with armed bodyguards. It doesn't matter if he's a weakling, but you'll have to fend for yourself because he's giving an easy pass to criminals. He wants to scrap misdemeanors and wants to send social workers to crime scenes and keep cashless bail. But Trump's writing an executive order overruling it.
I mean, they kill people and they get out. Cashless bail. They thought it was discriminatory to make people put up money because they just killed 3 people lying on a street. Any street all over the country, cashless bail. We're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization.
In Greenwich Village, 2 convicted killers were arrested selling drugs in the park, and the city let them walk with no bail. A Tren de Aragua gang member was wanted for homicide, and they arrested him, and he got out no bail. A pickpocketer was busted 45 times just last year, and he's still out on the streets. Cashless bail was such a problem in Chicago, they reversed it. But Chicago homicides are still way too high. Homicides were higher every year in Chicago under Biden than under Obama. Trump says the Guard might have to pay the Windy City a little visit.
Is the Pentagon preparing for military deployment to Chicago? And with what you said there, are you waiting for the governor?
We're ready to go anywhere. You know, I hate to barge in on a city and then be treated horribly by corrupt politicians and bad politicians like a guy like Pritzker. He ought to spend more time in the gym, actually.
Chicago could look like Epcot, but Governor J.B. Back Ribs says it's already utopia.
Well, here I am on the path on the lakefront at 6 a.m. on a Monday. And we got a lot of people running, having a great time. It doesn't feel like a hellhole here. In fact, everybody's having a great time and enjoying themselves.
J.B. Back should take that act to the South Side. 6 people were killed there this weekend, including a kid. And the governor doesn't appreciate the fat jokes.
From my perspective, it takes one to know one on the weight question. And the president, of course, himself is not in good shape. So he ought to respond to that from me.
Instead of "I'm rubber, you're glue," JB Back should say thank you. D.C. is on its 12th day of no murders after they averaged one every other day for 30 years. Pritzker should say, yeah, let's save lives together. The mayor of Chicago, who's one of the most unpopular mayors in the country, with a 26% approval rating, says if Trump sends the Guard to protect blacks from killing each other, he's going to mount an insurrection.
The people of this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm alongside of me as I work every single day to protect the people of this city.
If Brandon Johnson can't protect his own people, why wouldn't he want help from Trump? Because Trump's white? Because he's a Republican? What? Because this is all about politics. Johnson and JB Back can't do their job. And if President Trump, who doesn't even live there, isn't even from there, can do it better in a couple of weeks, how does that make them look? Useless. Also makes them look like they really don't care. Trump's about to do to crime what he did to the border. Just like he showed politicians it was possible to control the border, now he's going to show them it's possible to control crime. These lifelong politicians keep everyone's expectations so low because they don't do anything with the power we give them. So when someone comes along and actually does something with that power, it makes the useless ones go crazy because it exposes their limp system that lets them stay in control. Judge Jeanine Pirro says, if you want to fight tyranny, fight crime.
You know what tyranny is? Tyranny is when you can't walk outside and go to dinner. Tyranny is when they shoot you and the person walks out of jail before you get out of the hospital. Tyranny is when people are not made accountable. Johnson ought to hope that the president comes there to clean up the mess in Chicago.
Trump's managing to unite the left and the right, while the politicians who sit up above are left out in the cold.
Have you been in Chicago? Have you been in Baltimore? Look, my daughter went to school in Chicago. I remember the day she graduated, there were shootings and killings right outside of her building. And in Baltimore, I have friends that go down to Johns Hopkins, get treated for medical conditions. I mean, they are nervous about ever going there. And this is not some right-wing person. This is somebody who wants to be able to go into some of our great cities and be able to be safe.
The city of Baltimore, the population's gone down by 300,000 people. Baltimore is rated the 4th most dangerous city in America. And Governor Wes Moore doesn't want Trump's help. He just wants him to come take a walk.
Donald Trump, if you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth. Because if you were willing to visit, if you were willing to spend time, if you were willing to actually walk our communities and walk our streets and not just talk about us from the Oval Office, you would see what we see. One of the greatest cities in the United States of America.
Trump had to decline politely. Quote, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland has asked in a rather nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. I assume he is talking about out-of-control, crime-ridden Baltimore. As president, I would much prefer that he clean up this crime disaster before I go there for a walk. Wes is talking a big game, but less than a year ago, he was kissing the ring.
Mr. President, welcome back to Maryland, sir. Welcome back to Maryland. It's good to see you.
In person, too.
Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Great to see you. And great to have you back here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are very, very anxious to be able to work closely with you.
Wes wanted to work closely with Trump when he thought no one was watching. But now he's running for president, so he's resisting like JB Back. Crime was one of the most important issues in the last election. It ranked higher than foreign policy and the deficit. The president has a mandate. That's how democracy works.
And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person. And when I see what's happening to our cities, and then you send in troops, instead of being praised, they're saying you're trying to take over the republic. These people are sick.
Black-on-black crime is going to keep raging if everyone's so afraid to talk about it. You can't arrest your way out of drugs, gangs, and broken homes, but it's a good start. If there's not going to be consequences at home, there's going to be consequences in society. And a party that doesn't believe in consequences isn't a party. It's anarchy. The left lost millions of voters over defund the police and open borders. And Trump's going to be going city to city with ICE and the Guard, cracking down on crime and illegals. And if there's a faction of politicians that fight that, they're going to suffer bad headlines 24/7. Or they can do the right thing and work with Trump to turn their cities into the Magic Kingdom.
And welcome to Hannity. And now the left in America is in complete meltdown mode after the new hero, alleged MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia, is back in the headlines facing possible deportation to Uganda after being arrested by ICE today. But let not your heart be troubled. Democrats did their part to help him. They were singing songs outside the ICE office in Baltimore. I don't get the singing. Maybe you can figure it out for me. Take a look.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Kilmar is our neighbor, you can't have him Trump. Let him free, let him free, let him free. Free Kilmar!
Oh, and Garcia's BFF in the U.S. Senate, Senator Chris Von Hollen, needed one more meeting with the alleged wife-beater gang member. Now, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem will join us with more in just a moment. Plus, nearly 3 million people, they have now signed a petition asking my governor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, to show leniency towards the illegal immigrant truck driver accused of killing 3 in a deadly crash. You might recall this is the illegal that was allowed unvetted into the country. He came through the sanctuary state of podcaster and Trump wannabe Gavin Newsom, and in California was given a commercial driver's license. He also got one in Washington state, but it turns out he could neither read English or speak English or read road signs. Want to sign that petition? Will Governor DeSantis listen to these people? I wouldn't count on it. He'll join us. That's also coming up. But first, we as a country, these are things you usually say during an election. You know, it's a tipping point. It's an inflection point for our country, even though it's not an election year. It truly is. This is a time, a moment unlike any other that I've seen in my lifetime. Now, you have the Democratic Party. They have moved so far to the radical left that it is now being led by a Marxist, Kami Mamdani, the Squad, Grandpa Bernie, Senator Pocahontas, Massachusetts, Jasmine Crockett, and California Governor Nutty Gavin Newsom. We'll have more on Nutty Newsom in a minute. But first, on every single issue, Democrats, they come down on the wrong side, and it's impacting all of your lives. Over the last 7+ months, President Trump has been working tirelessly to fix every single disaster Joe Biden, Kamala Harris left behind with big, necessary, transformational changes. He has set the economy up for a boom economy, great success, opportunity, millions of high-paying career jobs. He's trying to end wars, and he is ending them all over the world. He cleaned up the disaster at the border. The border is now really closed and really secure, and he's now deporting illegal immigrant criminals. He's cracking down on crime, but while President Trump is making bold action to make Americans safer and your life safer and your family safer and more prosperous, Democrats, they have done nothing but resist to the point that they have simply embraced the insanity, and they're embracing it more every day. They are the party of criminal, illegal immigrants. They are supporting the Green New Deal madness, which in and of itself is Marxism, isn't it? This over sensible energy policies. They're still wanting to spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars on solar panels and wind farms and take away your plastic straw and tell you what type of refrigerator and air conditioner you can have. They were against the largest tax cut in American history. They were against no tax on tips and overtime for hardworking American families. They didn't even support lower taxes on Social Security for our seniors. They don't want to build up our nation's defense, the next generation of weaponry. Now, when President Trump stood up to protect women's sports, Democrats, they fought for the right to keep biological men in women's locker rooms and in women's athletics. On foreign policy, Apparently, President Trump can't do anything right, even as he tries to create lasting peace around the world. In 7 months, President Trump has had a huge impact bringing peace around the globe. Many radical Democrats also have gone hardcore anti-Semitic. We'll have more on that coming up. This is the new radical left's agenda. They have completely lost touch with everyday Americans, which is why they are losing more support every day. In a 4-year period of time, 2020 to 2024, there's been a massive 5-point swing in favor of Republican registration versus Democratic registration. They're losing millions. Republicans are picking up millions. They're also the party of a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, weird singing, as you just saw. Nutty Newsom, well, he's completely lost his mind, spending way more time trying to troll Trump on X than cleaning up the disaster he's created in California. Cares way too much about being president. But you know what, Nutty Newsom? I want you to keep doing what you're doing. I'll have more later on this. Do not restore law and order in California. Don't rebuild the areas destroyed by the wildfires in the Pacific Palisades. Don't lower taxes, whatever you do, for the people in your state. Keep running huge budget deficits. Keep up with these horrible schools you have in California, spending millions on illegals, things like Medi-Cal. Keep, running tens of billions of dollars in budget deficits. Gavin, you're doing great. I'm proud of you. Now, thank you for your attention to this matter. This is the new Democratic Party. They root against everything that makes this country great. And today, once again, they have outed themselves as anti-safety, anti-law and order. And think about this. How can any American pursue happiness? How do you pursue happiness without law and order and safety and security? Is that not a mandatory prerequisite? This morning, President Trump took another step to further his crime agenda, signing an executive order ending cashless bail. And speaking, with reporters in the Oval Office, he emphasized how important this is. Democrats clinging to the failed policies of defund, dismantle, no bail laws. Take a look.
One of the executive orders has to do with cashless bail. That was when the big crime in this country started. And I can tell you who did it, when, but I don't want to do that because others followed pretty quickly. But that was when it happened. Somebody kills somebody, they go in, don't worry about it, no cash, come back in a couple of months, we'll give you a trial. You never see the person again. And I mean, they kill people and they get out. Cashless bail. They thought it was discriminatory to make people put up money because they just killed 3 people lying on a street. Any street all over the country, cashless bail. We're ending it. But we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization.
Yeah, let's reimagine the police and hire social workers instead of police officers that are trained. Now, during the signing ceremony, President Trump also touted some of the accomplishments that federal authorities have made in cleaning up Washington, D.C. and their crime problem. Take a listen to this.
439 illegal alien criminals have been removed, and we have 6 known gang members, some of the worst leaders of gangs anywhere in the country, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. We have 2 missing children that have been recovered. They thought they were gone. We brought them back to the family. The family started crying. They couldn't believe that they saw their child again. 49 homeless encampments have been removed. We like clean, we like beautiful, and we like safe, and that's what we're getting.
And according to the White House, since President Trump began the crackdown on D.C. crime, over 1,000 arrests have been made, 111 illegal firearms have been seized, and most importantly, D.C., our nation's capital, has gone a whopping 12 days without a single homicide, breaking the pre-COVID record. And given how successful his efforts have been in D.C., President Trump is warning other blue cities and states they may be next, telling Maryland Governor Wes Moore that he could send troops to Baltimore to help clean up the city's out-of-control crime problem there. And while saying this about Chicago, well, here's what he said. Take a look.
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help. Just look at the crime statistics. Look at the statistics that J.D. said about, even I didn't know it was that bad. That's terrible.
Now, the president's recent comments about the possibility of cleaning up crime in Chicago have led to the city's failed mayor, Brandon Johnson, to have a meltdown while threatening to, quote, rise up against tyranny and calling people to take to the streets, whatever that's supposed to mean. Sounds like a threat to me. Take a listen.
So, look, we're going to remain firm. We'll take legal action. But the people of this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm alongside of me as I work every single day to protect the people of this city.
Is that a threat to rise up against law enforcement that is there to save lives, not to be outdone? Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker speaking to reporters in Chicago today, where he claimed they don't need President Trump's help cracking down on crime. Yeah, they do. Take a look.
Earlier today in the Oval Office, Donald Trump looked at the assembled cameras and asked for me personally to say, Mr. President, can you do us the honor of protecting our city? Instead, I say, Mr. President, do not come to Chicago. You are neither wanted here nor needed here. Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points.
No, Chicago does need Donald Trump's help. Over the weekend, 6 people were shot and killed in Chicago. Another 27 were injured. In fact, Democrats in Illinois have failed to control the crime crisis for decades now. On this show, we have been scrolling these names, homicide victims, murder victims in Chicago since Obama was president. Democrats haven't lifted a finger to stop this. And even now, they still don't want to keep their city safe. Why? Because, what, they hate Trump more than they would, rather have their constituents safe and secure? It's dangerous to work with him. It's no surprise. A recent poll has the Chicago mayor's approval rating at less than 7%. And J.B. Pritzker, let me give you a heads up. You're not going to be president, ever. Give up hope. This is a party that has lost their conscience and their soul and their heart and any ounce of common sense they were ever born with. This is why the country is right now at this tipping point. This is an inflection point. The radical left doubles down on dumb, dumber, and stupid and crazy and fall on the wrong side of every issue. The question is, will the country go down with them? Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.